Hello, this is Bertha Jans from Freedom to Learn. I am here with Audrey, and she is here to learn about Freedom to Learn and also share some of her ideas. So we're going to be bouncing back and forth with questions and with answers. Okay, so what is your first question?
What is the background, like zeitgeist for Freedom to Learn? Like, how did you yourself fall into it? Give me just a little bit of a background story.
I made it up. I
as,
did.
as with everything.
Well, I mean, yeah, I've been in the education system for a while, seeing what's going on and
What do you mean by what's
how
going on?
difficult it is for kids that, oh, there's so much going on. There's so much going on. It is difficult. I find that the public system is becoming more of a daycare and less of a uh, 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 educational purpose, right? So they get education, but that's really not
The main driving force behind it.
Yeah,
Education, which obviously it should be.
yeah, the education just be straight out education. Also, schools are not supposed to be, uh, they're not designed or instituted to place those kind of, I guess, like they're designed for education, right? And it has become more and more that it's demanded, I guess, of the system, and people are also looking to the system for these kind of things of like uh, their their values, their politics, their um,
So they're looking for more of a cultural structure as opposed to an educational structure.
yes, yeah, and I guess it's been. I mean, if you think about like they are government run schools, right? So the government has every right to put these things in the schools. I mean, we vote our representatives to make the rules. We don't vote for the rules ourselves, but we vote for our representatives to do that. So in a public place, they have the right, and it's not, and that's not the problem. The problem is that there are more people who disagree with it, but then also it has become uh, that kind of environment, and it's kind of like, let's just, you know what, like, go away. We just want to learn. Okay, when I send my child to school, I just want them to learn like that. Like, if we think about, okay, why do you send your kids to school? Right, everybody
Says I want them to learn reading, math, writing.
do they though? Because it has become a little bit more is because I have to work and I can't teach them myself, and that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah, I'm not in the financial position to teach them
Yeah,
myself
yeah.
by staying home or.
And education is a bonus, and it's kind of like, no, education should be the primary place to do that, right? And the rest of it should fall onto the parents. All those the child's upbringing, right? All their values and all the other things should be up to the parents. But the thing is that that is, I mean, that's the demand of society. Also, you can't say to everybody, well, you know what, then you shouldn't work anymore and you should stay home with your kids, or you should teach them this, or you should teach them this. It's kind of like, no. So I want to make a place where education is primary. Education is the entire reason why they are there. But parents,
So, are you writing a curriculum then, or
no,
are you writing some kind of a like
no, I'm taking all the other.
public school parent transitional handbook kind of thing to say like this is what parents need from the public school system and this is what the public school system, like, are you trying to bridge the gap between those two things?
Well, it's kind of, um, okay. I had a thought and it just left me. But
Like, is it more policy and procedures type thing? Like, do you want to write like a list of like A, B, C, D, or do you want to say like generally this is what parents feel, this is how the public school system acts, and we need to kind of find a nice middle ground. And
I want to go back to right from the beginning, where
Mhm.
it's kind of like parents are parents, and
teachers are
and
teachers, or
teachers
EAs or EAs, or
yeah,
principals are
and
principals.
school is for learning, right? So that means the parents have uh, the parents make up the school,
Mhm.
right? And what they want to teach their kids, how they want to teach their kids. Now you have to. There's certain requirements, of course, from the government in order
Yeah.
to teach your kids, right? And that's the thing. I don't have to make a new curriculum.
Mhm.
Math, science, history, literacy,
It's all there.
it's all there.
Yeah.
It's just get rid of that other added stuff,
Mhm.
right? Get rid of all that other agenda kind of
Mhm.
thing, and let's just stick to this, right? Now, in the meantime, of course, you have to have policies in order to create those boundaries,
Mhm.
right? So it's kind of like, and yeah, I mean, the parents also have uh, um, the right, because okay, I did say this in a earlier video that I kind of took off because it was a little bit like, well, I don't want to go down the political road so much. I just want to talk about the education, right? But that, yeah, policies come into it because it's kind of like, hey, how can we work together, like democratically, that
Mhm.
everybody has their own views, has their own um, expectations,
Mhm.
right? And to create those boundaries where it can function strictly for education. And the thing is it has to be privatized. It has to be privatized because
So you're saying all public school systems need to be privatized in
well,
in what way? As in, like for example, it's like okay, so you have like the public school system, the Catholic school system, let's say, and so you're paying taxes to each one of those. Are you saying that like, say if you were to send your child to a public school, it's like your taxes goes towards straight to that public school? Or are you saying and that one is
well, I don't have
mirroring your beliefs exactly and all the parents that are at that
yeah,
public school exactly? Or
yeah,
are
well,
you like
I don't
what's your kind of like end
yeah,
game?
yeah, I don't have the power to make public schools function this way. So that's what I mean. It's kind of like, and I also said that in another video that when you are sending your child to a public playground,
Mhm.
you do not have the right to um, to um, you don't have the right to not dictate. What's the word? You don't have the right to
Dictate the rules within the exact space
because it's public.
because it's a public place.
Now, if you're private,
Mhm.
you can. You can
Right.
say these are the boundaries, this is what's acceptable, and this is what's not, right? So you're giving parents back the school,
Right.
right? And so
The
I
current
can't,
parents.
yeah, I
Mhm.
can't go into a public school and say we're going to change everything.
Yeah.
Thing is I just want to give parents an option to get out,
Mhm.
right? To say let's make our own school.
Mhm.
Let's do this with parents, right? Now I'm uh, the thing
So,
what
so something kind of like grassroots. Then, are you looking for more of like a homeschool co-op type feel? Are you looking for like you want to hire teachers in specific subjects? Are you looking to like what's
long term I'd love to build a school where we can do this, but I understand that it costs a lot of money, right? So yeah, and not everybody can afford it, and
Mhm.
that's the problem
Right.
because people who want to go out of the public system as it is right now, they only have the option of either homeschool or private school.
Mhm.
Well, private school is super expensive, and of course that's not an option for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Homeschool, I mean, people have to work, and people also are not equipped to maybe homeschool their kids, which we found out in COVID. So, right, they
That
do
is true. A
they
lot of
do.
people did struggle, and it's like everybody's not meant to be a teacher, and that's totally
Yeah.
fine.
You know what? Like I have three kids during COVID. Two of them were fantastic, but the dynamic of one didn't work. Like
I can see that.
my one child wouldn't couldn't separate parent and teacher.
Mhm.
And the dynamic of that was difficult for him. So yeah, I mean, whatever circumstance, right? So the thing is that right now, as it is, I've got to work alongside. So, because I want to make it affordable for everybody. So if you're homeschooling and do not, because you want to take your kids out, but you need help because I can't do this 5 days a week for whatever reason, because either they're driving you crazy or you just don't, you're just not equipped to do it, right? Or you got to go to work or whatever. Then it's an affordable option to say, I can work alongside you with that, or you can bring your children here, whatever you can afford, 1 day a week, 2 days a week, whatever, right? Whatever suits you, and
So are
so you
you
can
looking
get
to
both.
also work alongside the government at
The
all?
public school.
Like, are you,
No,
because,
it's not a government institution. They would have no right to
okay,
dictate what we are doing.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
outside of the law, right?
Obviously.
So like we can't teach things outside of the law, but we can, math, straight up math is not against the law. So let's just do straight
Are
up
you
math,
sure?
right? Like,
I think it might be at this point.
and it just makes a space where parents can count on, this is, I'm expecting my kid to get an education. That's where they get it. Can you get that in public schools right now? I expect my kid to get an education. See you later, kid. I'll see you at the end of the day. Is it happening? No.
Who knows?
I mean, I know because I was
Yeah.
there. Is it happening? Yeah, it's happening. It's not that they're not teaching math. It's not that they're not teaching science. It's that
Is it
it's
happening efficiently
it's not happening
within
efficiently.
the parameters of
No,
school?
it's
So
not.
what I found really interesting was you have another video where you're interviewing a woman, and she says that her son was watching videos all the time at school.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, I don't understand why they're not teaching like finances, but they're letting them watch videos all the time. Obviously, these are videos that are like movies that are approved by school boards, say. Now, when it comes to things like media, like, are you looking to work within the same kind of like historical, like it's like when we went to school, it was like, if there was like a PA day or some kid showed up by accident during a snow day or that kind of thing, of course we watched videos, like that was like kind of the normal thing.
Yeah.
But the rest of the time we didn't, unless it was like a special occasion. We had read the book and now we get to watch the movie. Like, are you still looking for, let's say, approval for certain situations like that from like the Board of Education? Like, are you still looking to work within the Board of Education at all, or are you trying to work
No.
outside of that?
I would be working outside of the Board of Education, and I would what I'm like, we wouldn't be watching. Okay, it's like if when you um, want to go to F2L, you would say your expectations. I want my kid to learn this, and I want my kid to learn this, and I want them to be independent in this. I want you to build their confidence in this. I want you to,
So
you
it's be
tell me
just an
what you
extremely
want me to teach.
personalized education
Yeah,
plan.
and then you can know that when they are, here with me doing this, that's what they're doing, right?
Nothing else.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
And we don't have that distraction of everything else. And we also uh, supporting learners would be maximized because it would be smaller groups, right? So I would, in order to financially even make it work, it would have to be uh, 10 kids for one educator.
Perfect. Yeah.
But it
Sure.
would never be any more.
Yeah.
It can function like we're not out to, make lots of money. We're out to provide the service, right? So we can make it work with one educator per 10 children, and that's quite sufficient, right?
So, are you familiar with like the forest schools that are offered in the area? Have you
The which?
forest schools?
Forest schools. No, I haven't heard
Yeah.
of
So this is kind of like a let's say growing movement in like the more homeschooling community. Is that there are like places popping up called forest schools. I think there's only one like in town proper, and it actually might be in like Canfield. But one of the things that they kind of tout is that you know you're a lot more connected to nature. It's like you drop your kid off at like a conservation area for the day,
Yeah.
and you only go 1 or 2 days a week. So it gives homeschooling parents kind of that opportunity to be like, listen, you
Really?
can go hang out with somebody else
Yeah.
for a day.
Homeschool relief.
And one, I believe it's the one that I had looked at, but don't quote me on the name because I don't know it, was $55 a day. So when you talk about like expectations around like money, do you have like a budget set out? Like, are you
$50 a child per day
yeah?
from 9 to
Okay,
3.
so that's completely on
Yeah.
par.
I
Like,
wanted to make it comparable to daycare
yeah,
because, uh, yeah, we have to be able to afford, of course, for it to function. But I want more people to come in
mhm.
than, you know, money kind
Yes.
of thing, right? So,
Wow, what a novel idea.
so yeah, but here's something else that a lot of parents don't know, and maybe it's coming into play with this whole forest thing, because you say they're more geared toward homeschool, but
Mhm.
it is legal also. Um, it's in the policy Ministry of Education of Ontario that you don't have to go to school.
All the time.
Um, you can skip school for 14 days for with absolutely no
That's a,
excuse.
was that a rule?
But if it's over 14,
Yeah,
then you have to have a doctor's note. Then you
right.
have to have a reason. Then you have to have an exception. So, but I've actually known parents who did this. They would only send their kid to school
Like every
every
15
15 days.
days?
Yeah. Mhm. I know a lot of parents who
How?
just don't want their kids in school, period. But they just can't. There's just nothing that they can do about it, right? So it's not, obviously, it's not good for the kid.
Well, it's not very structured, but also like
You're
it's
not giving them an education,
yeah, that's a
right?
little shady.
So, but they're only doing it just so that, they can get by and they can pass and they can push them through. So, but it's, so, you can, so the thing is that if you are in a public school and you want your kid to, know, catch up and keep up with, so that when they're in school, they have the ability to do that independently, right?
Mhm.
And despite the distractions and all that kind of stuff, it boosts them, right? So that they're able to function in a classroom. So, and they're not, they're not, because I would say, 2 out of every 20 kids can keep up with what is going on. I'm not even kidding. With their, like it
Like
is.
with the regular curriculum that
Yep.
they're
Yep. If I walk into a classroom with 20 kids, there's maybe 2 that are working independently, and the rest is kind of like, okay, I need to help you like understand the instruction and get you going, kind of thing, because they just sit there going, I don't know what to do, right? And
so there's a lot of micromanaging happening by
no, it's not micromanaging.
or
It's just the structure of it that it's kind of like, if um, and also a teacher has the push to just push them through,
right.
right? Doesn't have the option to sit down and say, okay, I want to work and make sure you understand this before we move on. You have to do that to every kid, and that's impossible. You don't have that kind of time, right?
So
So they fall more and more behind, and then sooner or later, it's not that they're completely illiterate, but they just sit there and they just go, okay, I just got to do the bare minimum so that I can hand it in and
yeah.
be done. And it's kind of like, okay, there's so much more you can do. There's so much more that you are capable of if you have the support,
Right.
right?
That makes sense. I was speaking to my friend this morning because I had said about your kind of like desire to make something new, change something, and she had said there are resources there, but teachers don't know they're there necessarily, or they don't have time to do it. And I
There's
think, and it's like again, I really feel for kind of the educators
what
themselves
kind of
because
resources is she talking about?
oh, just like if it's like oh the child needs specific help in like so far as like they don't know how to like pronounce certain words or they're at like a lower reading level than everybody else, and it's like would the teacher love to sit down with them for an extra
Yeah,
hour every
yeah, most
single
of the
day?
time.
Absolutely, they would
But they
love to,
can't.
but they just can't.
Well, they have an LRT in every school that's
Mhm.
supposed to pick up that slack. But you've got 100 kids in the school, and 90 of them need that extra time a day. you know, the LRT can't even, you give a kid,
Do you
the
think
most you
the
can afford is
like the
15.
learning resource team, do you think they're more focused on, let's say, kids with behavioral issues as opposed to kids who just need the independent
Those
learning
are,
time,
those are
or
EAs.
okay,
EAs are behavior.
okay.
Um,
Is there quite a definitive line? I'm just not sure between like an EA versus
an LRT?
yeah.
Yeah. An LRT is a teacher,
Mhm.
has teacher credentials, and helps the kids' education, right? Now, an EA is designed, supposed to, that's what we went to school for,
Mhm.
designed to help with education in the classroom,
Right. So
not
they're
not one-on-one really. But
right.
what's happening is there's so much behaviors that we actually just can't.
Right.
So they will put us in with a kid who has a diagnosis
Mhm.
to have an EA, to have that support, right? Um,
Then
and
you're not supporting the whole classroom, obviously.
well, what's happening is they'll put an EA in the classroom of the they'll put the diagnosed child in the classroom of behavior in order for the behavior to get the support.
Right. Okay.
So what we're doing now is we're taking diagnosed children and kind of using their resources to deal with behaviors. And what's happening is, I mean, you talk to any EA and they will tell you they're hopping from classroom to classroom all day long, putting out fires and breaking, like, and none of us are actually working on education.
Right.
And
None of
that's
you
and
are
that's
supporting the
really
educational
too bad.
goals of
Yes,
children.
yeah.
Right.
That, I mean, the diagnosed child almost becomes secondary,
Yeah.
right? I mean, primarily is safety, right? So that is always uh, primary. But if you've got like a child in a wheelchair or an autistic child or whatever,
Mhm.
actually a lot of them were fine all by themselves, and there is no safety issue. So what you're doing is you're hopping over to the other safety issue who's throwing desks and freaking out, right?
Mhm.
And that's it's
So, so say if there was a behavioral issue, I did watch the video with Will, um, with the child who is creating more of a disturbance in the classroom and a disruptive environment. So as an EA, or excuse me, as a class, he said the teacher and everybody else just leaves the classroom. Now,
evacuate.
in that instance, and obviously you can feel his frustration in that interview. But in that instance, why did he, or why, I don't know how to phrase this nicely.
Why is
um,
that happening?
why is the child not given the kind of behavioral support that they may need in order to regulate themselves?
They have those resources, right? You can go to Bethesda.
Mhm.
There's also trained psychiatrists. But you can't force that. The parents have to
So
accept it.
I
So
was gonna say, is it
parents have to
so it's
get those
more
resources.
of a parental side of things
Yeah.
than um, the education side of
Yeah.
things. Now, because obviously there's a safety issue in that case, like, I mean, when I was like, you know, I don't want to say how old I am, but like, 15 years ago, 20 years
Long
ago,
time
so
ago.
many years ago, there were a lot more, I think, um, strict measures around kids who had behavioral issues and special needs and that kind of thing. And, um, you know, there was a lot more kind of emphasis on the division, which was good and bad, obviously. It's obviously very good to include people, and it's very good and it's very, morale and confidence boosting to have different capabilities and abilities in a classroom
Differences of any
of any kind. But when it comes to behavior that
safety.
is unsafe, is there not something that the school can do, the teachers can do, the school board can do, the principal can do on that side? And if so, why? Like, I'm struggling to understand why they haven't done it yet. Like, and it, of course, like, you don't want to fault the child, you don't want to fault the parents because they might be in an impossible situation too, and they don't know what to do, which is fine. But how come, like, in my understanding, if something like that was happening, Usually there would be like an EA like yourself, somebody from the school board, something like that, a social worker, somebody would come in and kind of take a
An
metering
assessment.
of the situation and say like, this is what needs to be done, this is the care plan, this is the whatever.
We do. We have safety plans and stuff like that on preventative measures and proactive and stuff like that. But
But is that
if it
more
happens,
reactive as opposed to
yeah,
proactive?
it becomes more reactive because I mean, um, um, you have preventative measures. Let's say you have levels of that you could see the child getting agitated or that you could see what's happening or whatever, so you can try to take them out before the episode,
Sure.
which yeah, we're allowed to
Probably
do and
happens,
stuff
and
like
yeah.
that. But sometimes it's just bam, right? It's
Yeah.
just freak out right away, right? And can the school do anything about that? No, they can. They can call the parents and say, "Can you pick up your child?" But they cannot refuse access. So if the parent says, "No, I can't pick up my child," too bad. It's a public
So when
it's a public place, so you cannot refuse access.
so like obviously coming off the back of COVID, for example, it's like I know I'm not sure how it is in schools, but it's like your child has to be, if they've been sick, they have to be off of antibiotics, or they have to have been on antibiotics for 48 hours if they have some kind of a bacterial infection.
It's funny
They
how that
have
goes,
to
eh?
be,
Yeah.
if they have a fever, they're immediately sent home no matter what. But I don't understand why that's deemed unsafe, but a physical threat is not deemed unsafe.
Yep. 100%.
Okay, so you don't even no, you don't know either.
There's a lot of things that just don't make sense, and it's just kind of like, well, and I think it is because it is uh, more of a daycare, right, than anything else. It's
So then let's talk a little bit about advancement in freedom to learn, and by advancement I mean like grades, right? Like if a kid wants to go to freedom to learn, say they want to go through K through 12, right? Like, is it going to be like GED after that? How are kids going to, if they want to attend post-secondary, like what are they going to do? Like, what's that going to look like?
So how do they get their diploma you're
Yeah,
talking about?
yeah.
Well, that's the thing. We would work alongside, right? So they don't actually get their diploma from us.
Right.
They get their education from us.
Oh, I see.
And they
Okay,
get
it
their
all clicked for me.
they get a diploma from wherever else they're going. Now, if Freedom to Learn got big enough, and you're like, hey, I want my kid to go there full time every day, and we've got a facility, and it's looked more like a school than a doctor's office where kids are coming in and going out, and whatever, right? If it were ever to become like that, then we would have to get the credentials to be able to give them their diploma, right? Which would only mean that we would hire a teacher, right? Kind of thing. But right now, it's supporting, right?
It's supporting education as opposed to.
Yeah, because that's where we have to start. Now, if I had all the resources to do that and to just, blow up a school and invite people over, it would totally, absolutely, 100%. But right now, it is very much like, you know what? Let's give these kids an education because there is definitely a market for that, right? Um, uh, that
So your kind of theory or whatever would it be they would be coming to Freedom to Learn for 14 days, and then the 15th day they would be going to school,
It's whatever.
like a public school,
It's whatever
or whatever, the week there, a week with you, or a week, like.
Well, it's whatever the parents decide.
Right.
Really, right? If the parents want to send them,
Up to the parents.
that's right.
What a
So
novel idea.
the parents just say, I want to put my child in for 1 day a week, 2 day a week. I want to put them in for the whole week, but over 15 days, he's got to go back to the public system.
Sure.
Is whatever, right? As long as we have 10-to-1 ratio in the school.
Now, are
There you
you
go.
not concerned about, like, I'm part of a few homeschool forums on Facebook, and one of the things that kind of scares people is that, if your child is a diagnosed child, say they have learning disability, say they have some kind of special need, but the parent decides to homeschool. So the public school action for that is actually to call children's aid because they don't feel like parents are equipped to deal with special needs. It would sad and silly because obviously you're their
You're their
parent.
parent. Yeah.
So you should know how to deal with them because you raise them. But
Yeah.
here we are. The motto of 2024 is here we are. So one of the things that I don't see it often at all, but I did see a post quite recently that said like this woman had taken her child out of school and she got children's aid called on her. This was in not in our county. So it was one of those things where she just felt very like frustrated. They said the child had to be in school, had to be in a public school, had to be in a public school setting, and she felt very frustrated because he would come home at the end of the school day, and then she would say like, what are you learning? How are you learning? Who was teaching you today? And she didn't get any kind of he wasn't learning anything. And he was functioning at a lower reading level than his classmates, and then he obviously there's like social issues that come along with that because he feels embarrassed that he can't read alongside his friends.
Yeah.
Which makes him kind of more withdrawn.
Yeah.
So she was more frustrated that she had kind of a government entity called on her. What is your kind of what's your response to that?
How would we handle that? Well,
yeah, because I'm yeah.
well, yeah, that is, I mean, that's absolutely 100%. Freedom to learn would be a good option for that because it's like, okay, you want your kid to actually learn, send him our way, right? Because yeah, I do have a brochure. I don't think you have read that yet about what services we offer, and it doesn't say specifically special needs, but it does say that support for anything, and that every teacher has to have those credentials, right, of all ages, of all different. I wish I had it pulled up, but all ages and different cognitive levels, and that we also have, the other things that we need to support also with like first aid and vulnerable police checks. Perfect. And all that. Like it's got to be legal kind of thing. Oh, so obviously. So yeah, so I mean not. I mean that benefits everybody, but that especially benefits special needs, right? For the parents to know that their kid's safe, because yeah, they are vulnerable people, but then also it's kind of like we know how to support that, right?
Well, I mean, I like the idea of a smaller. I know this is like school jargon, but it's like I love the idea of a smaller classroom size in particular, just because
everybody does.
it,
it's way nicer for everybody.
It is,
right?
and like I went to a very tiny public school growing up, and I think there was like 88 kids when I graduated in the whole school. Like,
and now they're making these super schools and stuff, and it's just like, oh,
and it's bizarre.
Yeah.
Like
it's not helping.
It's
I don't
not.
think
It's
financially it's better, whatever, but it's really not. It's not helping for education.
I was gonna say I think it's more of a.
Because they say they're pooling their resources together and
Yeah.
they're making it more affordable, and then so that they don't have to fix up 5 schools, they're only fixing up 1 school kind of thing. So it's supposed to be because it's affordable, but it's kind of like, and then yeah, you can maximize classrooms, right, with that many kids, right? So instead of having a small class here and a small class here, now you got one big class with one teacher. So it's supposed to be more economically friendly.
Yeah.
But it's like, yeah. But in the meantime, it's not making it educationally friendly.
Yes.
Right.
It's funny too. Like since I grew up in such a small school, like split classes were a thing. Like we had like 10 grade 2s and 20 or 12 grade 3s or whatever in a class, and like I always thought it was like so. I was like, oh no, we have to like be held back by the grade 2s, but it's so like valuable. Like we were talking before, you turned on your camera about like the interactions.
Learning is personal.
Yeah, and the interactions between older and younger
Kids are
children.
personal.
What?
Yeah.
And they have their own personalities.
Yeah.
It's almost as if school shouldn't be a mill. Like puppy mills.
Yeah.
These are like children's mills.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's, I don't know, that's what I mean, that it's becoming, maybe daycare is a wrong word, but we're
Mhm.
not, education is become secondary.
Okay. Well, I have a much better idea of what you're actually.
And I'm saying I want to bring education primary. And I also
Mhm.
want, you know, I think it's so very important that the parents make the calls,
Mhm.
right? And if you've got a teacher that you don't like, I mean, you're rolling a dice in the public system too,
Sure. Yeah.
right?
You could have a great teacher, you could have an absolutely
Yeah.
phenomenal teacher, or you could have a teacher that is just
Yep.
there.
And then this one, this is like your choice,
Yeah.
right? If they do well with this teacher, sure, they do, right? Because I mean, I can have a class of, I don't have to just have a class of grade fours. I can have a class of,
A
you know,
mixed bag. Yeah.
a mixed bag. I mean, and if you prefer, if you want to be with the kids your age, sure, we can do that too. Like, you make the call, right?
I like it.
I don't know. I think there's a definite need for it. It's just a matter of parents um, trusting to do that, maybe, right? Or wanting enough to do that, because I know there's a lot of parents out there who are struggling and want an option,
Mhm.
but right, this is when I say the word tutoring to them,
Mhm.
it gives a picture of,
Yeah,
oh,
like
that's
you're
just
like
extra
leaning
work with
over and
extra,
yeah.
that's extra work with extra stuff extra demands also of the parent and of the children. It's
Yeah.
kind of like, no, actually, this is simplifying it, like,
Mhm.
like way more that you can carry on with your daily life and your kid can have an education at the same time. Super, right?
What a novel
But
idea.
it's not really done. I mean, you say you've got this forest thing,
Mhm.
right? Where parents want their kids to learn
Oh, that was
this
just me
at this
researching
time,
options, yeah.
right? And so you've got an option there. Why couldn't we do that for math,
Hmm.
right?
And I appreciate that because,
Mhm.
it's even like, I think, like, when my kids are school age, I'm trying to kind of make a happy balance between like some kind of like social group, and I don't know what that would kind of look like, whether it be a homeschooling co-op, something like Freedom to Learn. I don't know if I want to kind of go the
But you don't want it to be just always at home, right?
exactly. I
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
have like more of a
Mhm.
flexibility with like travel and that kind of thing because
You
um,
set the pace. And
exactly.
that's brilliant. I love that. That's great,
Because
right?
well, and two, it's like even myself, like when I was in a classroom situation, although I did come from a very, very small public school, elementary wise, I went to a larger high school, and I struggled, even though I went post secondary, I struggled. But when I could work at my own pace, when I was given my entire outline in post secondary, I was like just gone. Like that was it. I was great with independent learning. And
Yeah.
I think probably everybody in my family is probably structured like that, but we just didn't know until we hit that post secondary mark, which if you struggled with learning in
No, unless that
secondary
was your
school,
opportunity.
yeah,
Because some of
exactly.
these kids, they just
They
think,
just
well,
never,
I
yeah,
struggle
I
and that's
struggled and
just the
that,
way it is. But
yeah.
it's kind of like, no, actually, you just never have the opportunity.
Hmm.
No one's given you
Yeah.
the
And
tools
now
and
I
what you
completely
what you
I
can
eat
do.
certificates for breakfast. Like I love just getting like a diploma on a weekend. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, sign me up for that workshop. Like just give it to
Yeah.
me
Yeah.
because I just think it's so like I find that so much more enriching. But again, that's
It
just my
is.
personal learning style, and I
Oh,
didn't know that until post secondary.
learning style, but you know what? Like, I have a bit of child psychology too, and it's
Mm.
kind of like those two together,
Mm.
like education and skill and
Mm.
stuff. Um, and when you think, well, what do you mean that I only have confidence if I'm good at math? It's kind of like, no, it's not about that.
Yeah.
It's about your ability,
Mm.
right? And it just lights kids on fire. Like, they
I know.
just like that's not just you and your experience.
Mhm.
That is
That's literally everyone.
that's
Once they
it's
figure it
child
out, they're
psychology.
great.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, and it just, man, like, they conquer the world like that, right?
If
And
only they had the individualized attention to discover
excuse
that.
me.
Hmm.
Yeah, the opportunity, right? That it doesn't have to be the way it is. It can be better. And I, yeah. Anyways, you know what? It's about that time that I probably have to go.
Okay.
But do you have any more?
Nope, I'm good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's coming together.
It's
It
coming
really is
together.
hard to explain, though, isn't it?
It is a little bit.
Because it's really kind of like when people ask me, okay,
So-
then what can you do? It's kind of like
Mhm.
that's the thing. You have to tell me what to do,
Right.
and I'm just telling you, I can do that for you.
This was an
What are
hour
your
long. This was an
expectations?
hour long elevator pitch.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice talking to you anyway.
Yeah, that's true. That was nice. Okay. I don't know if I'll have to, you know, I don't even know how the sound was like either, so we'll have to check it later. But okay, anyways, we'll see you guys again soon. Thank you, Audrey, and good night.